Hello, Harry Chapin fans out there in Facebook and YouTube land. Welcome to this really special broadcast we have going out tonight. Probably a lot of you have been hearing a little bit of rumors out there about a new documentary that's happening about Harry. And the documentary is called When in Doubt, Do Something. And it's the Harry Chapin story. And we've got some special guests that we're going to be talking to tonight. And we hope we get a lot of interaction from all of you out there in Facebook and YouTube. And we'll be telling you a little bit more about how to send us some questions and comments and all of that. But first and foremost, let's introduce our guests. First of all, we have Jason Chapin, of course, son of Harry. And Jason's been a real spearhead behind this project. So how are you doing tonight, Jason?
I'm great. Great to see you, Bill.
Good to see you. And then kind of the brawn behind this are two of the producers that have really pulled this together from Plainview Entertainment. And they pulled together some amazing clips that probably you guys haven't seen before. They're doing some amazing interviews as well. And so on the broadcast tonight, we got producer and director Rick Korn. Hey, Rick.
How you doing, Bill?
Doing well. And S.A. Barron, who is also another producer and the editor of the documentary. How's it going, S.A.?
How are you?
Doing well. Well, to get started, we're going to kind of give you a little bit of an overview, but just again, to remind you, let's hear from you. We'd love to hear your comments, questions, and you can reach us through the Harry Chapin Music Facebook page. So head on over there. If you're not already watching on that particular Facebook page, head on over there, send a message, and we'd love to hear from everyone in terms of questions and ideas and, of course, your Harry stories, right? So let's get started. I thought, Jason, maybe you could kind of give us a little bit of background about how this all got started, this documentary project.
Sure. I got a phone call from Bill Ayers, the co-founder of Why Hunger, and a close family friend last year, almost a year ago. And he said that he's been talking to two great guys about a great idea. And then he shared with me that there was interest in doing a documentary, which would be about Why Hunger and my father and Bill Ayers, all that they've done and all that's happened over the last few decades.
That's great. And this has been a long time coming. There's been so many hopes for a documentary at some point. So I'm sure that was real satisfying to get that phone call.
Yeah, I have to say that there hasn't been a project like this going back for many years. I'd say when VH1 did Behind the Music, that was a big deal. And the Carnegie Hall tribute back in 1987 was a really big deal. But this is the biggest project since then. And it's just it's covering all facets of my father's life and Why Hunger and Bill Ayers' involvement, and it includes family, band, everybody. So it's got a little of everything, and it's really a great story.
Awesome. So from Plainview Entertainment's perspective, Rick, maybe you could start off a little bit. How did you guys stumble upon this and get involved?
Well, I was first exposed to Harry Chapin in 1975 when Harry came to my high school, which was in Plainview, Long Island, Kennedy High School. And it was the first time I saw him live, and he talked about World Hunger Year. And then later in my life, I was working with a gentleman by the name of Carl Perkins, who wrote the song Blue Suede Shoes. And I reconnected with Bill Ayers, and we gave a lot of Blue Suede Shoes and signed guitars to Bill over many years for the Hungerthon. And so Bill and I were always working together on Hungerthon concerts for a number of years. And we were up there filming him for a totally different documentary, him and Noreen. And I said, how come, no one's ever done a documentary lately on you and Harry? And he said, I don't know, why don't you do it? And I said, great. S.A. and I talked it over, and here we are 2+ years later, and we're 87 minutes into the rough cut. So that's how we got together.
So does that story jive with USA?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I kind of pushed Rick a little down the.
You definitely did.
I think it was yeah. I just felt like something was calling us, man. Something was calling us. And the Harry thing, growing up on Long Island, always hearing about Harry, and then hearing about when he passed away, kind of remembering that. It was something that I just felt like it was our calling. We were meant to do this, and it just fit perfectly into the model of we're producing movies and content that is really more than just the music and more than just the story. I mean, and sort of Harry's story of bringing it from the past into the present was just an incredible story for us, and I'm honored to be being able to tell it, and it's exciting stuff. It really is.
Well, and for In Plain View, this is not your first rodeo. You guys have been involved in this sort of thing from a documentary and video perspective for quite a long time, right?
Both of us have, yeah. We've experienced documentarians. We've worked with some of the truly great people in rock and roll, and we're very fortunate to, and we feel blessed to be working on Harry's film.
That's great. And, you know, you mentioned this a little bit, that it sort of seemed like a calling a bit, but really, what's really fascinated you about the Harry story? Of all the people out there that you guys could be working on,
I've been in the music world most of my life, and worked for Ayers Records and Clive Davis, directed 30 music videos for artists like Aretha Franklin and Whitney Houston and Toni Braxton and Joe Satriani, and the music, and that's, I'm a musician also, so you know, music's a big part of my life. But what was so enticing about this story that it goes beyond just the music, and it's just a great American story of music and making the world a better place. I mean, that's really what Harry was about. He was about making the world a better place, and he was so committed to it that and the fact that it's, you know, been 30, you know, almost 40 years, that he's still carrying on so strongly. It's just the energy. And I know it sounds all like la-di-da and stuff, but I swear to God, when I'm editing, Rick and I was explaining to you before, we work on like Skype when we share a screen. And I swear to God, sometimes I feel like I'm not even pushing the buttons. And I know that sounds, but I'm, you know, kind of a spiritual guy anyway, but I feel like he's there with us telling his story. So
you know, I think one of the things that really drew us to Harry's story is, as S.A. was saying, this is not your typical rock and roll story. We don't want to make films that are just about a rock and roll star who had great music and fizzled out one way or another. The great thing about Harry's story is Harry. It's his energy. It's what he accomplished, and he actually, you know, didn't just do concerts to raise money or talk the talk. He actually went out and did the work, and that to us makes the story not only unique, but we think one of the most inspirational stories you'll ever see. The way we're putting it together, we're letting Harry be Harry. We're letting the family, Jason and his brothers and sisters, and Sandy, of course, and all the great people that surrounded Harry, both musically and his family, his brothers, Tom and Steve are amazing in the film. Everyone is. It's the kind of film that I believe the world needs right now. I think Harry's story of compassion and action, and that one person or two people, in this case, three people, we believe in Sandy and Bill and Harry, and the fact that they created Why Hunger and eventually what came out of it, and Long Island Cares, and they've helped millions and millions of people, saved millions of lives over the 44, 45 years that they all have been been working on behalf of people less fortunate. And we think that story, plus his incredible music, and every scene has a great song in it that relates in one way or another to the scene, either melodically or just Harry's words. And it's, we think, going to be really a story that people are going to gravitate to.
That's great. I want to come back to some of that about the timing of all this here in a minute. But Jason, I thought I'd ask you real quick, from the family's perspective, you guys probably get approached all the time for various things. What do you really hope that comes out of this in terms of the story and the message that you're going to be sent?
Yeah, the odd thing, I wouldn't say that we're approached all the time. I know that my mother and the Chapin office get a lot of proposals for different things, but really for the last few decades, there's been just continuing the legacy and supporting the events and the concerts and some other activities that really started a long time ago. A few examples, Why Hunger started in 1975, and they have annual events. They have an annual dinner. They have Hungerthon. They have other special events, and so we've always supported that. And each year they seem to get a little bigger, a little stronger, a little bolder, and reaching more people. And then here in Westchester, New York, in Croton, there's an annual run. It's the Harry Chapin Run Against Hunger. And that's been going on since 1981. And so family members go to that each year, and it's a great community event. And they raise a lot of money to support 6 different organizations, including Why Hunger. And on Long Island Cares did a Harry Chapin run for 19 years. I ran in that for 19 years. I wish I could say I was healthier for it, but really enjoyed it. And so every now and then there's something else. And this was really a wow. I mean, there's nobody that came to us and said, we want to do a full-length documentary that covers all aspects of your father's life and focuses on Bill Ayers and Why Hunger and family and band and everything. And what's really special about this is not only the fact that this is a major documentary, but my father started as a filmmaker. So right. It's really interesting that he was into film and making documentaries before he got into music, and he got into music so he could do more film. And here he's featured in a documentary. So it's very ironic. It's very interesting, but it's also, I don't know, maybe I'm a little nostalgic, but I feel like we're looking back more. Maybe it's because we're in very uncertain times and there's a lot of polarity of opinions and policies and so forth. But I think a lot of people look back to the 70s, and of course, every decade has a lot going on, but there were a lot of great musicians back then, and they're still performing today. But people are thinking, wow, I went to a concert in the 70s. I saw the same performer in the 80s and the 90s and 2000s. And there's just such a connection that people have to music and musicians. So this kind of brings a lot of different things together.
Yeah, I was fortunate to get a little sneak peek of the documentary where it stands right now. And you're wrapping it up. It's going to be completed here real soon. And that was one of the takeaways I had. It was just so amazing as you're going through the documentary, how many parallels there are to the situation today. And what I kind of took away from it is kind of the hope and positivity that Harry brought to that situation back in the 70s and early 80s, that we can learn a lot from that, particularly younger people who may feel like things are not looking so good for their future right now. Did you get a sense for that as you kind of go through all this?
I think one thing we both influenced about was the Mr. Rogers documentary and how well that was received, and it was such a positive message. And I just think we live, not to get political here, but we kind of live in an upside down world right now. And I just think people are hungry for just a positive message, and that's what this is. I mean, I think it's the energy of Harry's, you know, his essence is more vibrant today than ever, and it's still carrying on, and it's going to be carrying on for decades and decades. And that's really what this is about. It's a really uplifting, positive story that we all need right now. So
I just want to further what S.A. Just said, and that is that with one of the things that kind of struck us about Harry was his ability to bring opposing sides together. We have a scene in the film back in 1977 when Harry was trying to get the resolution passed to start a hunger commission. And he brought together Senator Pat Leahy and Bob Dole. And you see Harry in a room filled with Democrats and Republicans, and he's the one that's bringing it all together. And he was loved by both parties. I think, you know, that message alone is pretty important in today's world.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that is very abundantly clear, that he really wanted to work and willing to talk to anyone at any time to further the message out there. I just wanted a quick reminder for those who might be just joining us. We're having a great discussion right now among the producers of the new documentary that's going to be coming out called When in Doubt, Do Something, the Harry Chapin story. And on the line tonight, we've got Jason Chapin, and we got from In Plainview Entertainment, Rick Korn. I'll get it right eventually. Rick Korn, who is a producer and director, and S.A. Barron, who is also a producer and editor on just a fantastic documentary that's coming out. Maybe we should get a little bit into the documentary itself, kind of where it stands, and kind of the approach you guys are taking with it. I'll start with you, Jason, as far as this is an opportunity where fans and folks from all stripes can sort of get involved, right?
Sure. This is really a collective effort. It's not just Rick and S.A. and Why Hunger and my family. It's really lots of people who have been along this journey going back to the 70s. So it includes my father's manager, Ken Cragen, who was tremendously influential in a number of ways. And it includes other members who were in the music industry and involved with a lot of things my father was doing. So it's really, it's a full look back, and also a reassessment of all that's happened over many years, and really a celebration of all that's happened over many years, and that so many people kept my father's legacy alive by doing great things on their own that collectively led to keeping a lot of these organizations going and allowing them to get to the next level. And also, I think it's really an opportunity for a lot of other people to be involved in this film. We've had people who I haven't been in touch with for years who have shared great stories. They've shared photos, they've shared audio, video. And so this is like, all of a sudden we're going through the archives, we're finding the best of the best, and we're putting it all together in one film. And we also have the opportunity to allow a lot of other people to get behind this film so that we can get it out there to the public and share it with everybody.
Yeah. And tell us a little more about the approach from your standpoint, Rick, in terms of how this is all kind of coming together, because, you know, documentaries, it seems, you mentioned the Mr. Rogers one. It seems like documentaries have had this amazing rebirth in the last few years. And it's exciting to be able to sort of be part of it. And you guys work with lots of groups and people that get involved and help invest in it and all that sort of thing. And it's just really nice to see how documentaries have really just taken hold the last few years.
I agree. It is the golden age of documentaries with Netflix and Amazon, and of course you've got HBO and Showtime and other networks, and ways to even self-distribute. It's a great time to have a documentary. Certainly, this documentary, we feel in the genre that we're in within the music world, we think we have a really unique story to tell, and the documentary just is not just great music; it's just simply an amazing story, and that's what I think makes it unique in the marketplace right now, in a very active marketplace.
Right, and the timing couldn't be better, I think, for this story, right? I mean, just because of all that's going on right now, and the bonus is, hey, great music, a great personal story, but also just like we talked about earlier, it's just great timing from just where we are in the world.
Let me answer Derek's question here. It's when do we hope to debut the documentary? Let me explain where we are in the process. We are 87 minutes into a rough cut, and basically in the world of documentary filmmaking, you want to get to the point where you have a completed rough cut, which is virtually everything that you're going to have in the film, and then you go from there into some final cuts, and of course you want to get all the mixing right because this is a music documentary, and so we've raised more than our goal to finish the rough cut, which we should be done in the next 3 to 4 weeks, and then we're currently now raising money, and we want to get fans involved to join in, and we're raising the money to do for the finishing costs. So that's kind of the process that we're in right now.
And the finishing costs, I was just going to say, on the finishing costs, I think once people see what's in this documentary, you guys, I don't know where you come up with this stuff. It's amazing, but you've dug deep into archives that's seemingly across the world to find some just amazing jewels, but those do come at a price. I have an assumption, right? Using a Harry lyric, right? Good things don't come cheap. You have to pay for them.
Yeah, one thing, I guess, with documentaries being so hot these days, everybody wants to get, paid with their footage, which is understandable. Everybody's in the business, but Johnny Carson and other, and Merv Griffin we have in there, and a lot of really we also have stuff that people have never seen before, which is great. Also, some of the stuff's on YouTube and it's very bad quality, so we have to get the best quality stuff and make sure that it sounds and looks amazing, and then we have to color correct, and we have to audio mix and all those things to really just make this the best it could be, and we're committed to that.
So as part of kind of getting to the goal line here, what's kind of the vision or hope in terms of once it gets finished? What's kind of the next step after that? You have to try and find a place for it to land, right?
Well, we've been speaking with distributors already, so people out there are aware of what we're doing. They want to see a rough cut, so the first goal before you approach networks and other forms of distributors is to finish the rough cut, and then we'll probably have a multi-distribution strategy. Harry was fairly well known in overseas, so that brings more distribution, and this is a worldwide film. Harry was not just a worldwide artist, but Harry saved a lot of lives around the world over the years, and still does. His work still does.
Absolutely. So Jason, from your perspective, do you see this as a way to reach a younger audience? I mean, all of us raving fans out there, we're getting on in age, and but this is such a universal story about your dad and all of the things around it, as well as the music. Is it with the streaming services out there and all that? Do you see that as a possibility to really be able to extend the reach?
Well, first off, I say this unabashedly. My father had and has the greatest fans in the world. We hear from them. I hear from people on Facebook. We get letters at the office, and what I've witnessed the last few years, which is happening more and more, is parents who went to see my father when they were in their teens or 20s, and really loved my father and music, and then they get to the next stage of their life, and before you know it, they have kids, and then they start playing my father's music to their kids, and you would think the kids would say, no, I'm a different generation, I'm gonna listen to my own music. But it's really surprising how often kids end up listening to the same music that their parents grew up with and end up loving it just as much. And so the music gets passed down from generation to generation. And so that's fascinating. And then something else that surprises me, I could be watching TV and there's a show on that maybe I've seen a couple times, and all of a sudden there's a scene and they're featuring Cats in the Cradle.
Right.
And it happens on a regular basis. It's just astounding how frequently it happens. And it could be a cartoon, it could be a feature film, it could be drama, it could be any TV show. And so, it's happening very frequently. And I asked my younger daughter if she could put together a montage just for the fun of it. And so she did. And it includes some of the biggest and best TV shows, movies, commercials, and we put it on YouTube, and people seem to love it. And so it just tells me that music doesn't have an end. It just keeps going and going. And then you have people who will, do covers, and they'll reinvent a song or they'll reinterpret a song. So I think that there's something magical about music, and there seems to be a resurgence, even, a growing interest in vinyl. It turns out vinyl is outselling CDs now. So people are really into music, and they're taking a new look at music by, using different formats. So it just amazes me how important music is to everybody's lives, and how much it reminds them of their past and connects them to their emotions.
And Bill, just to follow up on this, SA and I have written this film so that a 20-year-old or an 18-year-old or a 30-year-old or a 50-year-old or a 60, 70-year-old that didn't know Harry may be familiar with Cats in the Cradle, but don't know the story behind it. We've created this film in a way that I think will surprise. Some of the things that you'll find that we discovered will surprise you. And so we're writing this film for that 20-something or 30-something-year-old, so that they watch this and they go, wow, that was an amazing guy. That I'm inspired by that guy. And that's the way we're writing the film. And Harry makes it easy for us, and so does Bill, and so does and Sandy. These are just amazing people and I think their story, all collectively, needs to be told today. And that's the way we look at reaching the younger audience.
Yeah. Well, as a father of a couple of millennials, I can tell you that not only is the music, universal, and that group of kids they just seem to really have a much more expanded horizon than I certainly did when I was that age as far as music. But to your point, Rick, it's not just the music, but again, the times that we're in, they're looking for, those anchors to hang on to, to kind of get them through. So I think you got it right. Speaking of that, you mentioned some aha moments, maybe. Anything comes to mind? SA, maybe you've probably been you're probably kind of mind numb at this point, looking through all the video and all that. Was there any aha moments of like, wow, I never heard that one before, or anything like that that might be we could peek at a little bit of a surprise that might be coming out?
Well, we're talking a little about the footage that we have of Harry and Pat Leahy and Bob Dole playing on the Capitol steps, and Pat Leahy makes a speech that will just, when you hear it, you melt. I mean, the guy was just so profound and so powerful, and the way he describes Harry. I mean, he said if you took Harry's, I forgot exactly how did he say, Rick? He said if you could bottle his energy, it would solve all the world problems. That's what he said.
That's right. That's right.
And to me, that kind of sums it all up. You have to. There's no other way to describe it. And the fact that, cats in the cradle, we say in the film that it's a verb now. It's like you've been cats in the cradle. That's it's been so it's so ubiquitous. It's so everywhere, that song, that it's become a verb.
Right. No, absolutely. Well, and of course, Cats in the Cradle is the iconic song that we all know. Maybe we just go down the line. Do each of you have a favorite Harry song? I don't know if I've ever asked that of you, Jason, but after going through all this, is there one that really sticks with you?
Well, it's funny. One of the questions. Oh, I'm sorry, Jason. Go ahead.
No worries. This sounds odd, but it depends on the day. It depends on my mood. I don't have one song that I will always say is my favorite song.
Yeah.
No, I hear you on that. Go ahead, Rick.
Well, that's a question we ask everyone that we interview. Jason's answer actually was Mr. Tanner, if I recall. I usually put it to you, if you only had one song, what would it be, right?
Right.
Am I correct about that, Jason?
On that day, yes, it was Mr. Tanner.
It was Mr. Tanner.
You nailed it.
It's the song that there's two songs that really stand out to me. The first one is a song called Changes, which Harry sang on the Capitol steps in Washington, and we mix in that song of him there with Tom and at the Capitol steps singing the song Changes with Senator Leahy's speech that S.A. mentioned earlier. And that song for me stands out. The other one was a song that really blew my mind, that Harry wrote it, and we didn't discover it until we have Harry's memorial service, which no one has seen, and plays a pretty big role in this film in the third act. It's incredible. That was an incredible memorial service, as you can imagine. But there's a woman by the name of Dolores Hall who was in, I believe, was she in Zinger, Jason?
She was in The Night That Made America Famous on Broadway.
The Night That Made America Famous. Just this incredible, Broadway gospel voice, and she's singing this song that we could not believe that Harry wrote it. I couldn't believe it. So those are and it became like my favorite song. We start the third act with that song. She just belts it out and perform. Yeah.
Okay, S.A., what about you?
You know what? It's funny because I was going to say Remember When the Music, and then WOLD popped in my head. We were working recently with, we have a version of him from this Denmark show, which is just incredible. I think that was 1977. It's one of the best. It's just an incredible performance from the beginning to end, in front of a small Danish crowd in the studio. It's just incredible, and he does an unbelievable version of that. And then we heard, and then there's Richie Havens' version of it, and he does it at the tribute show with Steve and Tom, and they do some harmony. And it's just you get a chill down your spine watching it. It's just so that sort of seeing that again. I'd seen it initially, but we just were working with it yesterday, I think, and I'd seen that again. I'm like, wow, that is just. And to hear another interpretation of it, and then also Bruce Springsteen doing "Remember When" at the tribute show was just incredible, also.
Right.
And it's great to hear Harry's version, and it's great to hear these, monumental other artists doing them and kind of bringing another level to it. So I would say
that's great.
Songs.
Well, I just wanted to quickly remind everyone that if anybody's just kind of joined us, we're talking about the new documentary that's being worked on that will be coming out fairly soon called When in Doubt, Do Something, the Harry Chapin Story. And we have producers Jason Chapin on the line, along with our friends at In Plain View Entertainment, Rick Korn, who's a producer, and S.A. Barron, who's a producer. So feel free to
Bill,
send over any comments or questions you might have over at the Harry Chapin Music Facebook page, and we'll try to get to a few of those here momentarily. Jason, were you about to say something? Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to break the rules. I'm going to ask the interviewer what his favorite song is.
Mine? You're not supposed to break the fourth wall or third wall or whatever that is, right? Well, it does depend, but I would say overall, probably Tangled Up Puppet, because I have a daughter that went through a lot of the same kind of things that song is based on. So whenever I hear that one, I stop everything I'm doing pretty much. And I think everyone's got that one.
Bill, in the film, you haven't seen it yet because it's not in the rough cut version that you saw. Jen Chapin does an unbelievable version of that song. Her husband is on stand-up bass, and it's just the two of them, no other guitar instruments, and Jen's voice doing, and it just brings that song to a whole different level. So we're mixing Harry's version of Tangled Up Puppet with Jen.
Yeah,
I like it.
Now it is kind of hard to choose. It's like choosing between children, right? So I'm sure we all have that dilemma there. So from here, I just wanted to kind of maybe just go back a little bit and talk about where things are with the documentary as we kind of start wrapping things up here a little bit. What do you think? You think you'll probably be finishing up, you said, in 3 or 4 weeks as far as kind of getting the final rough cut? And then do you have a sense for how long it will take beyond that? I know it all depends, probably is the answer, but any sense from the feelers you've put out there so far?
How long it'll take to get the finished product
air.
Or to air? To
the finished product in air.
Yeah, our hopes are that we can get this out in the fall in one form or another, depending on our distributor, of course. And there's a lot of but ifs. It may take a little longer, but I'd love to. Our goal is to tie it into the Hungerthon, the 2019 Hungerthon, and make it a big deal and raise a lot of money for Why Hunger and promote the film.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So as far as a bit of the process behind doing a documentary, I've never been involved in anything like that before. How do you actually go about structuring something like that? I mean, it just seems like such a gargantuan task. S.A., you probably have a version of it, and I'm sure, Rick, you have a version of it, depending on what part you're responsible for. So I guess from an editing standpoint, to start off with. Go ahead.
Well, actually, it's the other way around. You start with, you got to write it. You got to write the treatment and write a story that makes sense and is unique, and line up all the interviews that you need to help tell that story. And we had a pretty good flow from the beginning. It's one of those projects that just works instantly. And then once we have access, as we've had access to all the existing footage, and we've done all our research, and we hired a research producer to help us, and SA worked on that. And once we have everything we need in the can, and we're doing another scene this weekend, the final scene of the film, with virtually everybody that's in the film. But we start editing, and SA and I do it via Skype. He lives in Long Island. I live on the Jersey Shore, and I can see his editing screen, and we just go for it. And it takes a lot. We do scene by scene. It's not necessarily in chronological order. We did the final scene the other day, and we've got 2 or 3 more scenes to go that come before that. So quite a few other scenes. Today we created one whole scene that comes, a good 15, 20 minutes before the ending of the film. So it's a process of telling Harry's story. And because Harry was a documentarian, and I'll let SA, chime in from an editing standpoint, but because Harry was a documentarian, the pressure is on even more, because we're telling the story of one of the great American storytellers, if not the greatest. And
right.
So that a little bit of pressure, but Harry's helped us along the way, and in kind of odd ways and pretty amazing ones. But as I can talk about.
Yeah, I think with technology and with editing, the fact that things have changed so much in the last few years as far as shooting it. I'm shooting the documentary as well as editing it, and that's enabled us to produce the movie at in a way that we have a lot more control, and we can do the stuff ourselves. We fly around the country, and with our equipment and with my equipment, and it really gives us a lot more control over the whole project. Where in the old days, you might have to hire somebody here and fly there and do that, and not really be able to have the hands-on that we've been able to do on this project. And the way we're editing it is just again, that's all about the technology. So I think we've been blessed to be able to have that at our fingertips, because I don't think we would have the ability to do what we're doing without all the technology. And we went to the archives, which was basically a closet of tapes that nobody's ever seen. That was at the Harry Chapin office, and Peggy, who runs that, has been great. And but these tapes were just sitting there, and we've been able to go in there and basically unearth stuff that people have never seen, really. And
right.
And that, to me, is really important also, because there's a lot of Harry stuff on YouTube, which is great. But I think that the true Harry fan is going to really appreciate the fact that we've really dug up some stuff that people haven't seen yet. And people are going to be blown away when they see it.
The one thing I do want to chime in on that's unique about this film is that we have all of the radio shows that Bill and Harry did when Bill was at ABC. And we do kind of a This Is Us type of thing, because the things that Harry and Bill were talking about on the radio in 1975 and 76 and 77 all the way up until 81, prior to his death, are things that are relevant in today's world. So we try to mix in something that Harry and Bill said in 1977 on the radio, and then immediately come to 2018 and 2019, and what's happening in the world of hunger and poverty today, and how the things that they were creating back then literally help save lives today, and that, I think, is really crucial in this film, and is also really unique to this film.
Yeah, no, that's great. And Jason, real quickly too, what would you think? How would Harry feel about a documentary, going back to, I think S.A. mentioned, or Rick mentioned, it's kind of gone full circle, right? As far as being involved in a documentary like this. If he was around, would he like just be in the middle of something like this? And I know it's not so much about trying to glorify him, but I mean physically, you may not.
He is.
You probably would hear a lot more from him than you'd want to, right?
Probably. It's good to be able to hit Harry.
Yeah, there is a part of him he is guiding this in a way. And there's one scene where Bill Ayers talks about a recent dream he had about my father. So there's a lot of spirituality in this. And my father, I remember when I was young, and he was making a documentary about his grandfather, Kenneth Burke. And so he was doing all aspects of it. He was filming, doing audio, he was interviewing. And so he would have been hands-on. He would have been involved in every aspect of it. There would have been no way of holding him back. There's just no way to stop him once he commits himself to something. So I think he's committed to making sure that we finish this project and it's shared with a lot of people, because if when I look back at his life, there was just love on so many levels. The relationship he had with my mother and all the things they worked on together, his relationship with Bill Ayers, relationship with his brothers and the band and the fans. And so it's another way of showing that when we love each other, when we care for each other, when we're committed to things, then we really are doing good things, and good things lead to great things. So it's a tribute to him, but I think it's a tribute to all the people that were helping him and working with him. And I'm hoping that when this comes out, it's going to be not only a time for everyone to look back and be thankful for different moments in their lives, but also I think it may inspire some other people to either do more or to get involved in other things that they're passionate about and didn't feel like they could have a difference. But the message in this film is that everybody can make a difference. Everybody can have a meaningful impact.
You summarized it well there, Jason. Thanks so much. Now, as we're kind of wrapping up here, if somebody does want to get involved in terms of maybe helping fund this next phase and all of that, how do they go about it? I'll throw that to you, Rick.
Well, go to our website, whenindoubtdosomething.com, and my contact information is there. Contact me and I'll send you information on the film. We have, I'd say about 20 investors that raised the first half of the money that we need. And we're getting calls and signing financial agreements every day with this latest round with just great people and great fans. And, we're just looking for people who are really passionate about hunger and poverty and people who are passionate about Harry. And we want you part of the team if you want to be. And we'll do something for those people who maybe can't invest. We'll do something not too far down the line for, as Harry would say, the cheap seats, so people can get involved in the film. But right now our focus is on, raising the amount of money we need to get a finished product.
Makes sense. Well, maybe we kind of end this with just some real quick final thoughts from each of you. Start with you, S.A.
Well, yeah, this has just been such an honor, and just feel really blessed to be involved with, I feel like I'm part of the Chapin family now, and that's what it's about. It's all about family, and like Jason said, it's all about love and putting out that positive energy, and it's just really channeling what Harry was all about and putting it out on the screen. So feeling really positive, and the feedback has just been really incredible so far. And like I said, we just got to let the energy flow right through the keyboard here as we're editing, and finish this story, because it's a great one. It really is.
Right. Rick?
For me, there's so much that I've gained out of doing this film, not only from Harry and Bill has been a very important part. Bill Ayers has been a very, very important part of my life over many years. I think I helped pick him up when he was down, and he helped pick me up when I was down. And to be able to tell Bill and Harry's story is such a blessing for us, for SA and I, and we say it to each other all the time. And on top of that, to be partners with Jason and the rest of the Chapins and Sandy, they're just amazing people. They're truly one of the great American families, people who are really compassionate and care. And I feel like all the people who've invested in the film so far, everyone is just so in sync. It's a great team, and I'm just, just so happy and blessed and thankful to be part of it.
Awesome. And Jason, one couple last words from you, maybe?
I'm just thankful to all of you for helping to make this possible, and just to digress just a little bit. There are some other projects about my father that are all coming together at the same time, and this documentary fits in the middle of a great basket of projects. There's a book written by Pat Fenton that's probably coming out this summer. It's already written. It's with the publisher, and it focuses on Harry Chapin's America. It goes to towns like Scranton, talks to people about Harry Chapin and America and 30,000 Pounds Bananas. Same thing with Better Place to Be and so forth. And then Pat Fenton's is a good friend of the family. And then Steve Alano, another very good friend of the family, is writing the authorized biography about my father. And then we had a meeting, my mother and I, with Mike Mitri, who is a Broadway musical producer, and so he's working on a musical about my father. And then there are a couple other projects that we're talking about, but this documentary is really, it's a major project, and I am just so proud to be involved in it, and I am totally committed to it. I am an investor, just want to be transparent about that, because I really believe that this project needs to be made and needs to be shared with the wider audience. And when I think about it, wherever the distribution deal takes us, I think that this is going to be broadcast here in the US, and it'll be broadcast many times over, so it'll reach millions of people. And also there were fans and still are fans around the world. So there's a big fan base in the UK and Australia and other parts of Europe and in Japan and so forth. So I think this is going to reach people all over the world, and nothing would make my father happier than knowing that his fans are getting something else, some more memories and some more music and some more material.
Yeah, he'd be all for stirring the pot just a little bit more, wouldn't he? So anyways, thanks, Jason, Rick, SA, and a quick shout out to Mike Graham, who's behind the scenes pulling us all together, the young sung hero pulling us together.
Amazing guy. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. So anyways, thanks to everybody who tuned in. And of course, this will also be recorded. So if you're just watching this now, tomorrow night at midnight, we're just as happy that you're able to tune in when you do. So until next time, thanks everybody. When in doubt, do something.
Thank you.
Thank you.